LifeServe Pharmacy is a healthcare provider for genuine medicine. Our main branch is located at Rubis Toll Station, Sabaki, Athi River on Mombasa Road. Our top value is convenient healthcare and dispensing quality prescriptions at the best value proposition. Our main attention spans around providing quality medicine and excellent services to our customers. We're giving 10% discounts on all supplements, hypertension, and diabetic drugs. We also believe you shouldn't pay too much to stay healthy, and that's why we'll match any advertised price on prescriptions and medicines. LifeServe Pharmacy is a healthcare provider with a human touch. It is Feel Good Friday right here on the show. And of course, we are live on Ebru TV. So to my director, could you kindly switch this off? Thank you. Hiya. So let's focus. This is Feel Good Friday right here on Ebru TV with me, Aziza Hashim. And of course, we're all about the good music. We're all about the good conversations. And we're all about just all things good. But being a Friday, today we have a very sensitive kind of topic. We've had of the recent cases of kidnappings. We've had, yani security has been not quite the order of the day. So when it comes to all these kidnappings, we've seen many different videos, especially of children. So there are victims of kidnappings. There are families where kidnappings happen. So what goes through the mind of someone who's being kidnapped? How do you recover from such an ordeal, especially the mental health aspects? Because we're not looking at the cases. That's for the police. All we can do is just urge for the law to take its course and for security to be heightened. But when it comes to the mental health bit of it, what does the victim go through? How can the family contribute to helping the victim go through the entire process? That's all we're going to be discussing today. And of course, I want you to be a part of the conversation. Before we introduce my guest wangu kwa studio, nakwambia tulisema mambo ya hip hop. Kuna msema amekuja na bling bling. I'm going to tell you who that is. Yani luku ni safi, luku ni moto, luku ni diriba, wacha wewe. So before we go to that, I want you to reach out to me. I want you to text me via WhatsApp, and my number is pretty simple. In case you miss it, that information will be at the bottom part of your screen. 0770-729-366 is my WhatsApp number. You can as well call me live via 0115-885-797. You can, of course, tag me on social media. Let's embrace digital migration. Tag me everywhere at Ebru TV Kenya, except for Facebook, which is Ebru TV KE. Official hashtag is New Day KE. Let's get it on and going. But for now, I have some amazing gentlemen in studio. You absolutely love them. We've brought them before on the show, and due to popular demand, they're back like they never left. Lo in Tanzania, I'm so bling bling, because yani, if we could zoom into the bling, like you see the way we were listening to music, alafu alikuwa amevaa hivyo. You wear a suit, alafu unaweka ka bling hapo, ka gold and everything. Mama yangu, how you doing, Fred?
I'm doing great.
Lazima nikuhype up kabisa.
You know, it's Friday. It's a relaxed moment.
Yeah.
But also catching up with the young people. And of course, you got to be like them.
You gotta be like them, you heard? Anyway, that's Fred Bork. He's a counseling psychologist. Doesn't look like one. And I can't kusaidia fat joke rap kiasi. But right here, he's about to give you insights. He's about to give you wisdom, because that's what we're all about. Now, lazima nikuulize. You already know the question I have to ask you first. Weekendy?
Fiti. Just got to hang out, of course. I'll be doing a bit of Kajiado this time around.
Sorry. Yeah. Watu wanaivasha? Watu wanaenda Kajiado.
Now, we turn on, you know, so you got to get on a tree and, you know, soak some deep stuff, you know. Bring it at his deeds, you know.
Kabisa, and I hope you will definitely enjoy yourself. Yeah. That sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah. We also have Samson, his back right here. We have Samson Mung'athia. So in case you've not seen him before on the show, he's all about serious business. Let's get down to business. It must be very serious. Na ikiwapatia wisdom, na wapatia na all the seriousness that needs to be taken into consideration. You're a transformative speaker and author. kwanza, karibu sana nyumbani.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being back again, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Naona pia we weekendi inaonyeshwa with the pop of color when it comes to your suit.
For me, my weekend this Saturday is a bit busy.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm doing some training, virtual training. I train people on public speaking.
Amazing.
You know, I normally say everything falls and rises at your ability to communicate.
Yeah.
So I have a session tomorrow. Later on in the evening, I have another one.
Whoa.
So my weekend is a bit busy. Like I should be looking like that tomorrow because I'm preparing people for the big stage.
So this is chase the bag kind of look. Weekendi is all about chasing that money.
Yeah.
But right now we have a very, unajua tunakuwa na ile ya catch up, a bit light conversations.
Yeah,
but what we're having today is not so light because at the end of the day, sote tumesikia hizi cases zenye zina increase every single day. To the point that yesterday my mom was telling me, because tuko na my mom and my baby brother, alafu alikuwa anasema yani, I'm even afraid of taking my baby brother now, kumpeleka ndugu yako shule, because it's not easy right now. So when it comes to this current ordeals that are happening, especially when it comes to kidnapping, what is your take on it, especially as a dad?
I think one, I must say it's a serious issue that is rising. And for example, for me where I live around Roysambu, we have earned cases. In fact, the neighboring place where I live, a child got lost around, I think around 4 or 5 years, who has not been found up to now. Of course, I think it's stealing. There is that part of either kidnapping for ransom or they're just disappearing. So it's a ordeal, a harrowing ordeal, because right now nobody's safe. Maybe the parents, the children, everybody is concerned. And at the end of the day, it leaves us emotionally drained because whenever you're going, like now I'm here, but I have to be thinking, where are my children? What are they doing? At the end of the day, when they come from school, who is going to drop them? Who is picking them? So you are always concerned. If it's not you, it's a relative, it's a person next to you. And I think it's a serious thing that we need to focus on, talk about. In as far as the security systems and apparatus who take their part, again, we should be involved in it all as a society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe Fred as well, because you're also a parent. How does that make you feel, especially knowing that your children are around, but safety is not as it used to be right now?
It's quite paradoxical, because it has eroded us on that ethos dynamic, whereby people are meant on to be responsible, and parenting is not an individualistic ideology, but a communal centered. And when there is no moral, there's instead a lot of intoxication and love of money, to an extent that even the basic ideologies are not censored. I saw on the television the other day that a mother decided to sell a child. You can sell a vehicle, but you can't sell a human being. And so, it drives us back to where are the ethos, where the ethos dynamic. And so it's a bit worrying in the society. And, thank God that we can discuss this today, because we are in a society that we just need to be outrightly intelligent with our association, because no one is trusted.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate that we have to live in those times where we can't trust anybody. But now, I wouldn't want to defend the ordeal that is currently happening or what we're facing right now. But where is the problem? Like, where did we go wrong as a society to the point that it's no longer safe?
It's very preeminent to say that life begins with the moral foundation of ethical sensitivity. And when we lose it, nothing really makes up a meaning. Because the gist of life is when we have moral standards that keeps us going. And so to an extent that we do not get to, first of all, appreciate that we are Africans. We are a communal society that are live in an environment of support and a system that engage with one another in a mutual building, that we can be responsible for another person's property, leave alone children. And when that is actually eroded and everyone is for himself and God for us all, then you look at what can benefit you at the expense of the other person. then we come into a moment of not care, and I don't care kind of, that if it costs me joy, I don't care how it costs another person's pain. The other thing is the level of desperation, to an extent that we do not, we have actually built a society that the end justifies the means. And so if I got it, I don't care how I got it. The fact is that I have it. Money is the end thing. You are relevant as what you have. And so if I can sell, if I can kill for money, then that is it. It's the money. It's not about the process. And so it's very unfortunate.
Very, very. You have an addition to that? I saw you shaking your head, so I thought you were like,
Just agreeing with Fred on the morality part of it, because the moment we erode our moral base, I was discussing with some people that was telling them, the traditional setup of an African society was this kind of setup where everybody cared for everybody, including their property. And now the children also communal, and everything was communal. I can look after your children, you can look after my children. But we have got this kind of individualistic approach to life right now, such that we have got to a point whereby people can live in the same house, in the same apartment, maybe if it's here in the city. You don't know your the next door neighbor. You don't even understand who they are. You don't know them by their name, because we are so individualistic. It's about, like Fred has said, it's about me. If my life is going on well, I don't care what's happening the other side of the road. So I think it has come to a point where we need to go back to the basics. Let's get to be human at first before now getting to be anything else.
Yeah. And there's this element of fear that comes along with that. Of course, there's that aspect of lack of humanity, as you stated it, from the party maybe perpetrating the act. But now, when it comes to someone like me, maybe I have a child, I'm in fear right now, or even me being Ivitu Venyeniko, I'm in fear of walking alone. There's high rates of crime, not only the kidnapping, but now, how would you speak to someone, or how would you rather speak to me for a person who's very fearful right now? What can I do?
Number one is don't possess yourself with the negative side of life. Because like I've said, there is high crime rates, everything is happening, everybody complaining about mugging, also kidnapping, all this kind of violence, robbery, and all these things. So the first thing for me is don't obsess yourself with that, because of course, in as far as that's the negative side of life, the bad part of what we see, there is the good part of it. So you better look at the other side, the goon side. Because at the end of the day, if you possess yourself with this, the negative part of it is that you're going to cripple yourself. You are putting yourself in a position whereby you are not able to reason. You impair yourself. I can't walk alone. I can't do this alone because I fear this will happen. So the best part of it is just don't ignore, but then don't focus on it, because whatever you focus on grows. If you feed your fears, they will grow, and of course you reap out of them.
Yeah, and maybe you're a dad. I want to stick right there.
Yeah.
At a time where we have things like this, and at a time where you want to feel secure, having to send your child out without worrying. Of course, kuna ile worry kidogo ya pirate. It's quite normal. But now, how would I speak to my 9-year-old brother right now to ensure that he has caution? Because children are very naive. Like, anajua kila mtu ni mzuri, anajua huu ni uncle, anajua huu ni auntie, and especially with parents naming. You see the way you mark your child's clothes and everything. So that's used as a way of people just calling out a name. Like, Aziza niaje, nakujua mimi ni uncle. So for things like that, how would you what would you tell your daughter or son who is back at home for them to ensure that they're not falling prey to such people?
I think, one, we should start by teaching our children to know people. By knowing people, let them know them. Don't this habit of telling children, uyu ni auntie, uyu ni uncle, and so and so. Let them know this is so and so by the name. Because the moment to teach a child that everybody is a relative, then they don't know who to trust and who not to trust. They don't know the limits of their trust. So number one, let your children know people by their names and by their roles in their lives. Kama ni mwalimu, huyu ni teacher, this is so and so, and let them know them by their names. Then number two, of course, is let also monitor our children. Who do they interact with? Who are their parents? Who are their relatives? And what's happening in their life? Because if you don't know the people, the friends they play with, the friends they interact with, where they go, then at the end of the day, you are left in darkness if anything happens. But if you monitor, you know, this child, my child is a friend to so-and-so, this is their parent, I know them, they do this. It's very easy now to follow up, to guide them, and to be with them. At the end of the day, if anything happens, you are easy to suspect. It's very easy to suspect my child was here, this way he goes or she goes at this time, at this moment, and all this. On the marking of clothes, I think we have been advised severally by various people, and also discourage it. If you have to mark anything, just use initials. Initial, of course, your child's name, initials, and all this, but avoid giving their names out or just writing them out. You find somebody is carrying like maybe a food bag that has the name, you know, it becomes easy to target them, or anything that could easily sell their name, their identity, just conceal it. Like the way you don't go giving your ID everywhere, or your ID number, or your passport, or anything. So just hold the name of a child to be quite close to you. Don't give it to the public. Of course, it comes to, when it goes to also schools and everything, if your children are at the age of going to school, either daycare, the normal schooling, just create that connection between you, the school, the systems, if it's a school driver who is dropping the child and everything, so that at the end of the day, every moment of the way, you know my child is here. If it's in school, I can get in touch with teacher so-and-so. If it's the child has left school, the driver is so-and-so who is going to drop them. If it's the house girl who is going to pick them. So at the end of the day, you have a roadmap in your mind that my child at this moment is here, is doing this, is with this and this person. You may not know everybody they are with, but at least you know somebody who is responsible of their life at whatever stage or whatever point that they are in.
Yeah, and you've broken it down from very many aspects that are quite important and essential. And I hope that the parent who's back at home anasikiliza and I get the deep insight, because at the end of the day, having these conversations is very, very important to ensure that, you know, when you have a problem, you just want it to go away. Yeah. So part of this curbing, the kidnapping experiences or these crimes that we're hearing right now, what is the role of counselors like you to ensure that that process is actually followed through?
Thank you. I think number one is to deal with emotional discomfort and psychological discomfort, because what happens is that when an incident like kidnapping does happen, what it deals is that it builds emotional distortion, whereby everyone, you're suspicious of everyone, and you become sensitive. Let me say that at one time I was carjacked by young people in a petrol station when I was fueling. And the ordeal happened that 5 months down the line, every other time I see a group of young people in front of me, I could feel my blood shivers because I have the memories of that. Until I begin to think positive about it and, get to, first of all, build confidence in myself, because there is an element you need to understand that you are as strong as your emotional dynamics. If you believe that you can overcome something, then you can begin to approach it on the dynamic of overcoming it. But also the psychological, the social intelligence, whereby you respect everyone but trust no one. That is a very strong element in that the approach, you're very sensitive to the approach that somebody get to give you. So what you do to people in counseling is that we help them to understand that they can have confidence in themselves, but also be respectful, but don't trust. Don't give more information than you cannot retrieve. Mm-hmm. The information that you give determines the acquaintance that you have with that individual. So, when someone is engaging you, it's important to be defensive, and that, you need to make an inquiry why the engagement, because most people who have wrong intention do not portray their wrong intention. Yeah. They always come with a good intention. So it is important to be defensive inquiry, in that let somebody know that you are actually not in for a joke or for an easy plan. But also the other aspect is to be environmentally sensitive, in that understand your environment before you engage on it. How are you operating in lonely alleys? do you get on that? Because, you know, those are some of the areas that these things do happen. So if and that, could you be able to build up support system whereby either you can find people who can be able to work with you, or, you know, live with somebody, so that it avoids, it helps to degrade the trauma and helps you to build up on the confidence about themselves. You find that people who have been kidnapped, sometimes some of them even fear darkness in itself. And so they want to sleep with the lights on. And so we train them to be able to massage their confidentiality by, you know, moving on into the unknown, basically by building support system, you know, walk in the dark with somebody. You know, because the more you keep on doing something, the more you keep building yourself from the inside, and then you get to discover that it's not as bad as yours.
Look, but now that is all when the event has actually happened, when now the ordeal has already taken place, which is very important to learn how to now get rid of those fears. But before we get into that, you've spoken about the aspect of respecting everyone but trusting no one. We've heard of these cases whereby it is the people who are closest to you who are the perpetrators of this particular acts, people who know things about you. That aspect of markings when it comes to kids' clothing or uniforms or whatnot, they use the familiarity aspect to try get to you. But now for me as an adult, I remember reading through a story of someone who went for drinks with her girls and everything, and then got poisoned in between that whole event, and then after that her life couldn't go back to normal. So the aspect of respecting everyone and trusting no one, how do I go about this element of trust at a time where I don't even know if the person seated next to me has the right intentions?
The basic part of it, I think, I agree with Fred on don't trust everybody, because, of course, you don't know people's intentions. People will befriend you. They will be close to you. Of course, bad motives or good motives, either way. So to me is to say approach everybody with a lot of suspicion. Don't just go pouring yourself out to people. You're going out maybe, like you have seen, for drinks or for whatever the event you're going, be it's a party, it's a meeting, it's a conference. You know, things have happened even in prayer meetings. You're going for a prayer meeting. Don't go just trusting everybody who is there. So the first way or the first step is you approach everybody with suspicion, some degree of suspicion. Now let the process fill that void of suspicion. Let approach everybody with suspicion, and then let how you interact with them gradually over time. You get to learn them, and if the people can be trusted, then you will build the trust from the point of suspicion, then to going to neutral, and then to building the trust with them. But if they're not people who can be trusted, of course, if you're suspicious of people, you wouldn't trust them with your life, your information, you know, your secrets, your life, and your relatives, and everything that to hold close to you. So approach everybody with some sense of suspicion, and then let time, because over time you build confidence. I think confidence is not just a one-day event. It's something you build over time. So once you approach everybody with suspicion, it gives you an advantage in that you can understand them, you can read into their mode, you can read in between the lines. But if you go to everybody with a lot of confidence, then you tend to lose yourself, because you don't have a moment of just interrogating who they are, what they are doing, and what the intentions are. So approach everybody and every relationship, every engagement, may it even be business, social, whatever kind of engagement you do, approach it with some sense of suspicion, and then let the process take up from there.
Okay, and still on that, we live in an era of social media where we share a lot of our information, a lot of our pictures online. He's talked about the kind of information that we give out there. So in an era where, okay, I want to share my experiences. I want to share this is where I'm at, this is where I'm eating, this is the food I'm eating. When does it become oversharing, and when does it become prey for now the predators who are the perpetrators of such ordeals to prey into?
I think we are living in just very interesting times, and we need also to teach, now that we're talking about children also, we need to educate our children or the young generation about this, the social media, because it's turning out to be a monster. It's turning out to be a place whereby people are being bullied also. I've dealt with cases of teenage who couldn't just think because, who are not thinking soberly, or they are having depression and other mental health issues because somebody just commented on their whatever Facebook or Instagram, you know, somebody posted something and some people comes and pour a negative out there. So the first thing is when you're going to social media, of course, there's on social media, but first, what's the intention of going there? You know, we are all not on social media for the same reason. There are people on social media for business, people on social media just for interacting. There are people on social media just out to seek to harm people or to just do weird things to people. So first establish your reason for being on social media. For example, if your social media or your point of being on social media is business, why should you be posting your personal information? Now, if your point is just to be social, to build up that social kind of following, you know, we are talking of following these days, I have this number of people, this number of kind of things, you know, that virtual kind of image. Then also limit what you share out. For instance, you don't have to tell people everything you do on a daily basis. You know, there are those people you follow, you see on social media, tomorrow I'm going this place, tomorrow I'm doing this.
Up.
Yeah. So you're exposing yourself, you are overexposing yourself. What I could just liken the experience on social media or how you should carry yourself on social media, just the way we dress. You know, there are parts of the body that will let people see. There are parts of you that will let people see, but there are parts you don't let people see. So don't kind of expose yourself entirely on social media. Don't tell people what we're going to be doing tomorrow, what we're going to be doing next month, what we're going to be doing maybe in the next day or 2 days or 3 weeks. Because in that way, you give the people who have wrong intentions the time to prepare. You give them information so that they can attack you using that information. So conceal as much as information that is private. Share with people only that what is public, or you're comfortable with people knowing, or you're comfortable with the people, even if they troll you, they do whatever they do on social media, it won't harm you in any way. Keep your private life private, and then let the social media just be your general life.
All right, and maybe there are certain ordeals that come out of now social media where someone has seen all this information about you. How is there a way that I can know that this is a person I need to watch out for, especially on social media? Fred?
Great. I think that's very important, especially when you're emotionally intelligent, in that, you know, it will start on by conversation. Because someone who is targeting you must converse with you first. Yeah. Now, from the conversation, you will actually be able to detect the intention of an individual. So what I would like to encourage people is that to avoid being naive to the fact that every other conversation is meant up for your good. You need to be emotionally intelligent in the fact that whatever the question that comes out, your response should be commensurate. Intelligent enough to be able to let this person know that though he's have an intention, but you have an understanding, you are internalizing what they're bringing out. So this will actually either enhance the communication or make the person get to understand that, no, this person is not as naive as I thought. Yeah. What happened is that, you know, the other thing I see that today, if you open your Facebook, you have more or less around over 20 friend requests. And majority of them, you don't know them. Now, you know, because people are in myopic dynamic that they want to compete about followings and all these dynamic people following them and all, so they do not really care. And, you know, some this pedophile kind of individuals try to be friend of your friend so that you see down there that he's a friend to your friend that you begin to trust on. And that's why I said earlier that respect everyone but don't trust anyone. Not anyone who is a friend of your friend is worth being your friend. And not everyone who is your friend on Facebook is worth your attention. Because just as someone has actually said, get to understand what is your intention in being in Facebook. When your intention is business, keep it to business. Don't get into the social competition of who is following you up. So that the person who communicates with you, you will actually be able to restrict them and say, you know what, my intention of being here is business. Please don't ask me about marriage. Don't ask me about being a boyfriend or a girlfriend. My intention of here is this specific. So that will actually be able to draw somebody into aligning themselves into the mandate of why you are there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now in the event that, back to the conversation that you'd initially brought up, in the event that now the ordeal has unfortunately happened, we can try as much as we can to help prevent, which is the main cause. Sure. But now, and even the government is doing everything that it takes to ensure that they are setting up the right measures to curb crime. We also have the multi-agency that has been set up. That's the team that has been set up in Nairobi, all in an attempt to curb crime. But now in the event that the crime has already happened, and now I've fallen victim to maybe a kidnapping, I've fallen victim to maybe a crime, there are certain things that I may be exposed to mentally. There are certain things that I go through in the healing process or trying to bounce back after that. Number one, what are some of these things that maybe someone who's gone through a certain ordeal, let's say kidnapping, actually go through?
So I think at first we need to understand when a kidnapping happens, it's not a good experience, because anybody kidnapping you, of course, they're not just going to keep you there and give you juice and everything that you want. So first there is the element of mental breakdown, because people just get to a point where you've been tortured, either physical torture, emotional torture, threats, and all these other things. So you get to a point where there is an emotional breakdown on that individual. That's one of the ways. Then the second thing is, of course, psychological. Now, psychological, it has an array of issues in between. Talk of depression, talk of extensive stress, talk of challenges also integrating with the people after you have been through that ordeal, because, of course, now you grow this kind of suspicion. You don't trust everybody or anybody. You don't feel safe anywhere. And, of course, to some extreme, it also brings about physical pain. Because maybe you've been beaten, you have been put in a hostile situation, you have been done all these things. So there is the element of physical damage or that comes from torture. But above all that, once somebody goes through this ordeal, there is the element of trauma. They're traumatized. They comes out feeling out of place, not just in conjunction with everybody or anything that is happening around them. So they are so traumatized. And they end up, now the element of trauma brings other issues, like we talk of nightmares, you are reliving those experiences, your mind, those things are recurring. Whatever you went through is recurring to you. So you find somebody who has been through, let's say, kidnapping experience. At the end of the day, when they come out of it, they are done with it. They are not able to really contain themselves, to get back to being themselves. They get impaired emotionally. And that's when it becomes very important that they are supported to go through that healing process so that they get back to that position whereby they are normal, they are rational, they can behave well, their emotions are tempered properly. And it's not really, they don't feel aroused or having trouble again.
Fred, you had an addition to that?
Yes, I think just support on what Samson has said is when they get on my counseling process, what I give them is three things. And number one is to accept that it happened. Because accepting is owning up that, yes, this is something that not
and maybe as you talk about that, there's also the aspect of a person who thinks, more often than not when something happens, you usually think it's your fault. So as you talk about that, could you also help someone who thinks that and get them out of that?
True. When you accept, you are actually not denying the sting. And, you own up, you open up your mind for, a solution to it, because there are people who keep silent with it. Let's say when it involves sexual molestation and all that kind of thing, and you feel you cannot communicate, so you cannot get to see a doctor on these other things, seek on a counselor. So accept that it did happen, and also accept that you are not only the only one. You know how the world, that has actually happened to you. But number two is, adjust. Adjust you need to change on your thinking dynamics, your reasoning, get to understand that this, as though it do happen, there is still life. And there is still a way out. Whatever happened, it may be psychologically effective, it may be socially restraining, or it may be physically painful. But of course, get to adjust. There are things. Seek treatment, seek counseling, seek dynamic ways of sorting it out. And of course, number three, you got to advance. Advance is that you got to move on from that particular point. Don't sit in the cocoon and deny yourself and, distance yourself, disconnect yourself from people, disconnect yourself from the things that you used to do. It may have actually happened in a party and you trust on people. It doesn't mean that if a certain group of people did something to you, everyone can be able to do it. Be cautious, be sensitive, be intelligent, but of course, continue yourself to, fill up your space. You can hang out, but of course you hang out now more sensitive. Because the more you keep yourself in a cocoon, the more you get emotionally traumatized and distorted. And some people even get to a level that they have a mental challenge as a result of what they are going through.
Yeah, I want to take you back to still that experience. You find for certain people, it's easier said than done.
Sure.
When you talk about that aspect of acceptance, because I have seen several people go through certain things and they fall prey to this kind of ideology of blaming themselves for the experience that actually happened. I was in a party, so this happened because of me. So
Sure.
how can you advise such a person not to feel like it's their fault that
Great.
that ordeal particularly happened, so that they can move now to the process of acceptance and maybe the other processes of maybe moving on? How would you talk to that particular person?
All right. I think number one is to understand that life happens. When life happens, there are things that comes on along with it. Accidents is not planned. Accidents are incidents that do take place in life when we have good intention. Now, the third thing is to know that bad things happen to good people. And the fact that it's a bad thing that has happened does not mean that you become bad. Now, take off the tag by, first of all, get to understand who you are vis-a-vis what is it that has happened to you. What happens to you does not change who you are. What changes who you are is your belief system. When you begin to believe that you are a failure, you don't matter, you are not worth it, then you begin to conceive. Even the good book says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So you are a product of your thoughts. You are a product of what you internalize. So look for the best way out. Who am I? Who am I? And the second thing is to understand, whose am I? Do I still belong? Am I still worth being called my name? Because every one of us understand who their name really means. And your name is so unique to an extent that though someone may have not told you about your name, but you are significant with that your name. That your name will actually be able to give you the veto, the enigma that you need to be able to overcome certain challenges of life. And so when you find yourself that there is something that is distorting your identity, you need to look at, where does my security come from? Does my security come from the authentication of people, or does it come from my belief system? All right. Now, number two, what is my purpose in life? Where I am I still be able to accomplish my purpose? Am I still be able to go back to school? Can I be able to still do my work? Can I be able still to have fun? And critically analyze your purpose so that you can be able to get the best out of them. Because what distortions actually happens, some of these things are psychological. Even in school, someone get to tell you something, and that thing begin to distort your emotional system and begin to make you feel and think on a certain way. And so you get so distorted to an extent that you can now not think straight. Get back onto yourself and ask yourself, what is my purpose of being here? Yeah. So that your purpose will actually be able to intensify your security, and your security will actually get to bring forth the evidence of really who you are, that your name give it to you.
Okay, you had an addition to that?
Yeah, I think just to somebody who has been through such an ordeal is, number one, stop beating yourself. It will not help. You are just draining yourself, pushing yourself way down. So the first thing, like Fred has said, is just to accept. And then you have to know there is somebody called Murphy's. There is something called Murphy's Law. And Murphy's Law says whatever could happen, whatever could go wrong will go wrong. So at times it's not about you. It's not about anything. It's just about it was just to go wrong. So stop beating yourself. Just accept it happened, yes. And then look for the good thing in it. In every bad thing, whatever you go through, find the purpose. Find something good in it that you can rise up with, and go and impact other people, build your life out of that situation. So don't stay there. The fact that you're fallen is not an issue, but don't stay on the ground. Just wake up, dust off, face life, because life is there to be faced.
Yeah. And you brought out aspects of the flashbacks, the nightmares, the trauma that a person has gone through, any kind of ordeal actually goes through after the ordeal has happened. I want us to go through these things one by one and actually cancel the person who's listening in right now. So when it comes to number one, that aspect of I'm having nightmares, I'm having flashbacks of everything, the torture that I used to go through, how can you cancel someone like that?
Number one, it's also good we just clarify the flashback, the nightmare. I think flashback is just about reliving the experience. You know, you are just sitting somewhere and that thing just comes. It is easy so off, and you are just thinking like you are going through that process at that moment. That's flashback. It's all about. Now, flashback may not be. You're not reliving the entire period. It involves many things. You could just be having aspects of what happened. Maybe you're in a torture, or you are kidnapped maybe for a week, for a month, or for whatever the period of time. And there are some days that the torture was extreme, or the moments that life was just so bad. So you could be reliving those instances. Number two, you could also be reliving the environment of that incident, maybe the smell, the sounds that you used to hear, all these things that they give you the allure of what you went through. So those are the flashbacks that we're talking about. Now, nightmare, on the other hand, is about, you know, there are those people you sleep, you're dreaming weird dreams, going back to wherever you are, being beaten, doing all this, you panic, even dream, you wake up sweating, and all these other things. So for a person who is going through this, number one is seek help. That's the biggest part that we have to emphasize, because it's also part of our culture, I think. To some extent, it's part of our culture that we don't seek. And Fred will tell us, a psychological counselor here, that we don't appreciate the role of being counseled. We don't appreciate seeking help. So at times we're able to think and believe that we are sufficient, we are strong, until we break down and we can't find ourselves anymore. So first thing, find help. That's number one. Either professional counseling, maybe through the religious setup. You can go to a professional counselor, check with the religious leaders, may they be priests, pastors, imams, whoever the religious leaders they are. They have some knowledge of what they can assist you to go through. Then number two, build support system. By building support system, I mean engage with people, don't withdraw, because one of the tendencies of somebody who is just psychologically affected by such an event is that they tend to withdraw. You know, they tend to keep to themselves because they're wondering, what will people say? What will people think? What we're talking about, people feeling that they were on the wrong. So they keep blaming themselves. They keep just out of people. You don't want to relate with anybody. But what happens when we withdraw is that you tend to create a void that will be filled by something that is far worse. We talk of destructive behaviors. You know, people just want to go to alcohol from morning to evening just to feel out of place. So get support system. It could be family, it could be the society. You could join some groups of people who have been through this, maybe sexual violence. There are societies that are doing this. We're also talking on issues of people like who have been imprisoned for wrong reasons. So all these, there are support systems that are there. Yeah. So seek support. Whatever place that you can find support, build that support system. Then number three, vent out, ventilate. Don't let those things just keep you there, because part of nightmares is what you keep thinking about, what you keep meditating about is what is coming to haunt you maybe at night when you sleep. Or when you go to a place where you're alone, you feel just very unsafe, you are fearful of going to a place maybe in seclusion, you can't lock yourself in a house, in a washroom, because you feel like somebody's attacking you, all this. So ventilate, talk to people, tell them what you went through, of course. Sometimes it could be very sensitive to talk to. And that's why I said also seek help, because part of counseling is you talk out to the counselor. And also part of the social group is that you talk out to them. So by way of talking out, you relieve that tension, that pressure that was built up inside of you, and now you are able to think and process your life in a normal way.
Okay, you've broken it down in the most amazing way, and I hope it's really helping someone out there. So Fred, there are also this emotional outbursts that come with someone who has gone through that kind of ordeal, or even self-destructive behaviors. Unapata kuna watu ambao wanajikata when it comes to their wrists. There are people who result into maybe drug abuse after something like that, just as a way of letting out those emotions or covering them up in that perspective, starting with those emotional outbursts na pia those behaviors that are self-destructive. How can you talk about that?
Great. When there is emotional imbalance, there is need to do what is called diffusing systems.
What is that?
The element of actually finding a way to balance, because there are definitely some enzymes that medically, causes somebody, you are too, you're too centered in a particular thing to an extent that there is nothing, that your energy all is concentrated on that. So the reason why sometimes people do yoga, go to aerobics and do this gym is to dispense our energy so that it is not as concentrated on one particular point as it is. Because when it is so concentrated on a particular point, it's not useful, but it's destructive. So the diffusing, get something that you can be able to do to disseminate the energy. Dispense the energy. Like, when you're driving a car and it's in balance, which means that there's some tires which have more pressure than the others. So lose the pressure and add it on the other side. Now, when you are muscled up well and, you are tired, there is a way that when you relax, your energy is dispensed within yourself, and you can now not be in a position to maybe think about something so much, even to want to do a harmful thing to yourself. Secondly, give yourself value. Check on your value systems. What is it that controls you? What is it that carries you? What are you proud of? Because each and every one of us has something that they would want their name to be carried on. The dash between the date you are born and the date you die. People sitting on your graveyard, and what would you really like them to see? And so you begin to invest in that particular thing. Maybe you went through a rape, and talk to other young girls about rape, and help them. Share incidents. You may not be blunt about your story, but share with them on how they can actually be able to avoid that, and also if they get into that kind of a scenario, how they can behave. What are some of the practical measures that they can undertake so that they prevent themselves from STIs and all the infection. That way you will be relieving yourself. As you help others, you'll actually be helping yourself not to actually think of of what you went through so much, but using your challenges to build other people.
Yeah.
So that helps you in the value system. Then craft up your mission. Your missions are your mandates. These are your practical ideology and aspects that helps you to every single day go through them. What I always tell people, if you don't have them, write them down, create them, borrow them, bring them on, and there's something that you can be able to recite. In psychology, we say that if you can do something for 20 days, then it becomes a habit to you. And when it becomes a habit, it becomes all the norm. And that will help you to be able to move forward. Are there things that you can craft on? You can craft on that I'm bold, I'm confident, I'm beautiful, I am wonderful. Such kind of things that you keep on reciting on yourself. The more you recite them, the more they detonate the negative effects about it.
Yeah, and I think that is a really good way of dispensing your energy into other things rather than maybe things that would actually be destructive. So now when it comes to this aspect of depression, because more often than not, there are people who unfortunately get consumed with the whole situation, relive the experiences over and over again, and it consumes them to the point of severe depression. How can you talk to someone who's going through that from a counselor's perspective?
The point is, if you find yourself in a hole, you are walking and then you're falling into a hole, a ditch, stop digging. Because when you entertain that thought of whatever happened to you so much, what it is happening is that it is just pushing you further down. So my advice is, at first, just stop emphasizing on it, stop rethinking it and overthinking it, of course, not just rethinking, but overthinking it. Now, this doesn't mean that you ignore, because ignoring it doesn't go away. It will just remain in your emotions. You will be having issues because our body is set in a way that when you go through an event that is frightening, that is traumatizing, your body releases some either hormones or some chemicals that helps you to react, to either fight, do whatever, you run away, you do all these things. So if you ignore, that system that was evoked of producing those chemicals will still be reacting into your body when you come maybe through an event or an experience that is close to that and everything. So number one, don't ignore it, but then don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Yes, don't ignore it, but then don't overthink it. So once you find a balance in between the two, then like we have said about counseling and everything, before even you go to counseling, just accept yourself, accept what happened.
So it all starts with acceptance.
Yeah, it starts with acceptance, because if you don't accept, then it means you live in denial. In denial, it means you are denying the fact that it happened. You are denying that this thing happened to me. I went through this. And if you deny, you are not doing anything good, because one, you are putting yourself at the exposure of the same thing again, And then number two, you're putting yourself at the risk of falling now into destructive behaviors because you find a way to balance out what happened to you.
Yeah.
So first accept, but then don't ruminate over it. Don't just, synthesize and you want to relive every moment, every minute, all those things. Don't relive them, but then don't ignore them. Once you accept, it becomes very easy to heal because Fred, as a counselor here, will tell you healing starts at acceptance point. If somebody has not accepted, you can do everything. You can go for therapy. You can go for all those other activities. You can try to do anything else. But until they get to accept, then the healing does not start. So accept, and then now start the healing process from that point. Don't just stay there. Don't corner yourself, box yourself, because what you'll be doing is that you will be just drawing yourself further away. You'll be drifting further away, and at the end of the day, you tend to just find yourself at the farthest point whereby recovering now becomes hard. So the moment you've been through that experience, accept it, then now start the recovery journey.
Yeah, and I want to stick right there because we've been talking about the person who has gone through that particular ordeal, but the family, the external environment, the friends actually contribute to that whole process. So what are some of the things that the family, the friends actually do wrong that make it so hard for the recovery process to happen?
A number of things that could happen at times out of ignorance because they don't know. One of them could be once somebody has been through such an ordeal. Now you want them to relive it. You want them to narrate to you, to tell you what
Like
happened. Kuliendaje, what happened? Where were you? So that aspect of you are just arousing. Remember, you're not a psychological counselor. Counselors have a way of doing it systematically so that it doesn't traumatize that person again. So once somebody has been through that, just give them time, give them space. That's the first thing. Number two, don't blame. Because now if you blame them, somebody has been kidnapped, somebody has been raped, something has happened, and now you start pointing fingers and saying, if you didn't go, if you didn't do, that kind of, you're throwing blame on that person. You're not helping them. In fact, you're pushing them further ahead. So if a family member, don't blame them. Just give them empathy, just be empathetic with them. Try to resonate with them. Try to show them that in as far as this has happened, then we can recover and there is going to this. And then number three, don't expose them. By exposing it means you are a family, maybe you're my sister, you're my daughter, this has happened. I don't have to go yapping about it, shouting about it, so and so went through this and this happened to this. Just create that environment whereby you don't go exposing them further to people who may not have known or something like that has happened to them. And this will just give them confidence again. Now, confidence to talk, because the moment you talk it out, you are not the person who went through it. Now you're exposing the person who has gone through it. And then the person just wakes up today, tomorrow they hear somebody somewhere is talking about this event and all this that you said. This person just will lose trust in you, trust in the entire process, and they will not be able to recover. So for me, number one, just support them. Don't blame them, and then also don't just speak them out or don't just go saying about this and that. Just give them time to recuperate and then to find assistance now through the formal or the good channels, the way to just vent out and then build up confidence. The stories of reliving, they can tell you stories of what happened after they have recovered. But before that, you could be creating another trauma to that person.
Yeah, we've talked about the don'ts, but there are some of the do's that we can embrace as the families, we can embrace as the friends to actually help the healing process and help you bounce back your life back to normal. Because at the end of the day, that's the whole point of this whole conversation. Taking you through that healing process and helping you bring your life back to normal despite the ordeal that has happened to you. So sisi kama familia, sisi kama marafiki, tunafaa kufanya nini zaidi ili tukusaidie go through that process?
Of course, the first thing is actually to be intentional in embracing this person. Because what happens is that when such kind of a deal happens, there is a blame game inside. And, there is an aspect of feeling remorseful. Now, when you get to embrace somebody, be a shoulder that someone can lean on. And through this, you will actually be able to build a confidence in this person, even to be able to open up. That at the end of it will be so essential in healing. Now, create an environment of grace whereby, you do not really point, but you activate it like it can also happen to me. Use the I, not the you statement, so that it resonates both ways. but also on a forum of discussion. Don't just open the discussion where there are people who the person is not comfortable with. When you're actually opening on that discussion, be sensitive onto the environment, and also be gracious with this person in that, you know, the way you bring it out should not be finger pointing, but in elevating manner. But also, as much as it happens on in the family, it's also important to you. An example I give to my counselors, I tell them the 5 frogs fell into a hole. And, you know, the other frogs out of the hole began to shout and say to the frogs inside the hole, that hole is too deep.
You'll never get out.
You can never get out, you know. And you know, so the one of the frogs actually began to jump up, and, you know, is coming out. But when it finally came out, he started thanking the whole frog and say, thank you so much for encouraging me. And, you know, these guys were surprised. What were we encouraging you about? Then they discovered that this frog was deaf. I think those who have actually gone through some of the ordeal need to be deaf to the people who are speaking negative about it. Because negativity can never be avoided. There is always someone who will speak something negative about you, to you, and, you know, it will reactivate some of the you know, the past that you've actually overcome.
Yeah.
Just try and be deaf about it, because they never construct on your life. Be deaf to the people who think, who speak negative, people who demoralizes you, people who bring you down. Just be deaf to them and just continue doing what's right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that analogy has definitely hit the nail on the head. But lastly, we cannot avoid the fact that there was the kidnapper, there was the perpetrator of the act. And this is one thing that is never talked about. Is there a way we can cancel the kidnapper? And if given that chance, what would you actually do? How would you actually approach it? Or maybe even speaking to one right now, what would you actually tell the person who's the perpetrator of the act with all factors in mind?
Okay, I think at some point, I can just draw from my own experience. At some point in 2016, 2017, I was doing a lot of prison work. Now, prison work in the sense that I used to talk to prisoners, you know, those people about to exit. Somebody served in prison for maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever the period. And then they have like 3 months, they are going to be out. And when you interact with them, some of them will tell you very harrowing stories of what they did, how they killed people, how they did this, you know, all these processes. So number one, we need to understand, in as far as you're talking about kidnapping being a criminal activity, there are people who will do so because of an underlying issue. It's not entirely out of money. You know, people kidnapping and then asking for ransom. It's not entirely about money. There are people who are doing it out of an underlying issue. Maybe they were mistreated. You know, we talk about rape. There are people who are doing it because they were raped, and now they are seeking revenge. They are seeking to vent out. They are seeking to do all this just to revenge what happened, and they never healed. Because if you're not healed, of course, if you're hurting, you're going to hurt other people. So what I can tell, or I can talk to this person is, at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, apart from being a crime, of course, that is punishable by law, again, it is going to ruin lives of people, not only your life, because at the end of the day, you ruin your life as a criminal because you get in jail and all these other things, but you're ruining somebody's life. So the point is, to the person out there, you may be hearing this voice and you're thinking of, I want to do this and this and this. Number one, before you go seeking revenge, just think about the effect and the impact it is going to have, not only on your life, but on the life of that other person. Then number two, know that if you are doing it because you went through something, there are other constructive ways of dealing with what you went through. You don't have to hurt people so that you can feel good. And then number three, of course, go and seek help. Help from, I've said, nowadays, of course, with the social media also, the advantage part of it is that you can get help from anywhere at any one given point. So seek help, seek support, and don't vent out. If it's something, whatever is driving you is revenge, don't revenge. Seek a better way of venting out and healing. Now, if you're doing it as part of crime, just remember that crime doesn't pay. You may enjoy the benefits for now, 2-3 days or 2-3 years, but down the line, you will have to pay, and at times you'll end up paying with your very own life.
That is quite deep. But as we summarize, because time, of course, is not on our side, I'd like to read out a few comments, then give you time to give your finishing remarks as well. So in case unakaga hapo unashangaa watu tumaga ma comments wapi, 0770729366 is our WhatsApp number. You can share in on your views, share in on your sentiments, and I'd just like to read 4 of them. Kuna msee amecome through akasema Feel Good Friday leo iko on fire, keep it on, thank you so much. Victor from Nairobi amesema the show is wow, thank you so much. Tukona Godfrey anasema I'm still new to communication, especially when it comes to your programs, but I really love them and I love how the programs are run. We also have Boke from Limuru who says that he's new to the show, but he really loves the conversations that we're having. Make sure you always keep it on and going. Our social media platforms will always be Ibru TV Kenya, except for Facebook, which is Ibru TV KE. But now, as we summarize on this very deep and sensitive conversation, which I hope we have done justice to, I'd like to give each one of you some time to give your closing remarks. So if Nezanzana, Mr. Drip Palevo, Mr. Bling Bling, why don't you give us a few closing remarks?
Thank you so much. I think life is dynamic, and of course, for us to be able to build up the capacity of it, we need to, number one, begin with an end in mind. What would you like people to remind you or remember you for? There is something that is going to play out beyond the money that you have and beyond the properties that you hold. That is the influence that you made in other people's life. When you got to be remembered, what would people remember you for? Whether you are in crime or whether you are a victim of crime, please speak it up. People will not judge you by how dusty you are from where you fell, but how you are quick to rise up from that dust and get on yourself. Number 2, don't reinvent the wheel. Make on first things first. Get on a counselor. Get on to be in an environment that you can be helped, and let people help you. When time comes, you will also be a help.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Fred Obok. Last but not least, Samson.
I think to everybody who is hearing my voice today is the Bible says that there is nothing new under the sun. Whatever you've gone through, whatever has happened to you, has happened to several others. So there is no need to beat yourself up. There is no need to blame yourself and push yourself into the corner. So I will speak to somebody who has gone through these experiences. Number 1, seek help. Move out there, converse with people, build support systems, and know that you're not the first one and you will not be the last. So you can seize that opportunity, that moment, to help the next victim or the next person who is about to fall a victim to that. Now, to the person who is doing this, who is committing these heinous crimes, like I've said, is life will always be there. Whatever you do, don't be deceived. Life will pay you back. It may not pay you today or tomorrow, but down the line, life will pay you back. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. That has been a new day right here. It is Feel Good Friday. Super grateful for your presence right here on the show. Now, I've lot what wamekuwa request, and we have to give people what they want. So, wanawapenda na mimi nawapenda pia because of the wisdom that you share right here on the show. Asante sana Samson, asante sana Fred. Hope to have you back on the show again. But asante sana to you who's been tuning in from the beginning to the very end. I am Aziza Hashim. Na kama nilivyowaambia, this has been Feel Good Friday right here on New Day. Be sure to join me next week, same time, same place, for Youth Culture Tuesdays. You know how we do what we do, how we do it right here on Ibru TV. Alafu pia unipate pale Lifestyle Thursdays na Feel Good Friday right here. Hakuna kwingine. It's Ibru TV. Keep on interacting with us, keep on supporting all of our shows, and be sure to join me at the top of the hour for 1 p.m. news. But for now, have yourself a lovely day ahead. LifeServe Pharmacy is a healthcare provider for genuine medicine. Our main branch is located at Rubis Toll Station, Sabaki, Athi River on Mombasa Road. Our top value is convenient healthcare and dispensing quality prescriptions at the best value proposition. Our main attention spans around providing quality medicine and excellent services to our customers. We're giving 10% discounts on all supplements, hypertension, and diabetic drugs. We also believe you shouldn't pay too much to stay healthy, and that's why we'll match any advertised price on prescriptions and medicines. LifeServe Pharmacy is a healthcare provider with a human touch.